Hello, this is Veronica here, and today I will be going over non-tax revenue sources uh, in the city of Riverside. Today, specifically, I'll be reviewing the common non-tax revenue sources that cities use on a general level. I will be reviewing Riverside's most prominent non-tax revenues, why Riverside relies on these sources, and whether there are changes that are recommended. This presentation focuses only on non-tax revenue, not property or sales taxes, using Riverside's 2024 CAFR. In general, for non-tax revenue sources, the typical non-tax revenues would include charges for services and user fees, licenses and permits, intergovernmental revenues such as grants, enterprise fund revenues like utilities, and fines, rentals, and investment income. Our cities rely on these non-tax revenues, to supplement taxes, especially where tax growth is legally or politically constrained. User fees are often used to link payment to service consumption. By looking at Riverside's overview of their non-tax revenue, there is a total government fund revenue of $457.6 million and a non-tax revenue portion of $145.2 million, which makes up 32% of the overall budget. This is about 1/3 of Riverside's government revenue that comes from non-tax sources, making it a pretty substantial contribution to their fiscal stability. Looking at drilling down at their intergovernmental revenues, it's at 78.5 million, licenses and permits 16.5 million, charges for services 15.5 million, and investment and rental income 22.8 million. These grants and shared revenues make up the largest shares, followed by fees and licenses tied to development and service use. It's also important to note of the major non-tax sources, such as the utility revenues, electric coming in at 429.9 million, water at 81.4 million, sewer 75.4 million, and other enterprise funds at 68 million, totaling at 654.7 million. Utilities are Riverside's largest non-tax revenue source overall, though it is important to know that they are legally restricted in how these revenues can be used. Riverside relies on non-tax revenues as property tax growth is limited due to Proposition 13. There is a desire to reduce reliance on regressive taxes to ensure equity. They do have a strong utility infrastructure, and these predictable fees do give a more stable stream of revenue to the city. And it's important that they don't rely on state and federal grants too much, as these are unpredictable. So these allow for Riverside to meet their service demand without raising taxes, especially where there are heavily mandated authorities on these taxes. It's important to note the risks and constraints of non-tax revenue, such as Proposition 218, and how grants can have a lot of guidelines that don't make the money as flexible. Um, and with user fees coming, it raises concerns regarding equity and whether it's fair to all residents for them to be in place. Um, and our cities aren't perfect. There was recently a court ruling requiring Riverside to with a lot 37 million dollar lawsuit in water fee refunds. And it just shows the impact of when these rules and guidelines are not followed, and what can happen when a city relies too much on these revenue streams. Ultimately, Riverside is maintains diversified non-tax revenues. They have a strong user fee format. Um, there's always room to expand with grants and intergovernmental funding, to just bring more opportunity to the community. And with the law hearing, it's important not to rely too much on utility transfers, um, to maintain community trust and transparency and compliance. Thank you.